Going for boost. Well, I think going for boost, if you're a boost merchant, like someone like AJ or someone, you go for boost.
100% of the time.
Yes.
Always, every second of every game. Ball's going in your net, don't worry about it. Go get the boost and make sure you've got the full 100 to celebrate with the other team.
Oh God. Never. Yeah, never. Always go for ball.
Yeah.
Number one rule of Rocket League.
Welcome to the Boost Over Ball podcast, where three aggressively average Rocket League players talk about everything RLCS with your hosts, Ace, Code Red Jack, Kyle Cube, and AJ Binky. So, if you've ever wondered when the best time to go for Boost Over Ball is, you've come to the right place.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Boost Over Ball podcast. To listeners new and old, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kyle, or K-Cube, and today I'm joined with AJ Binky. How's it going, AJ?
Howdy, I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Living the dream. Glad to be back from my trip. I'll touch on that here in a second with our schedule, but thank you so much for bearing with us while I was on vacation. After this episode, which is going to go up Thursday evening, we will be back to a regularly scheduled programming. With that being said, our upcoming schedule next week will be our Spring Major preview. That will be posting Wednesday morning like our normal episodes do. This week and next week's Bubble Blast episodes will go live later in the week, and those will be more of a conversational episode instead of informational. So we'll talk about some of the things that are surrounding the Rocket League scene and give our thoughts on the upcoming major and tournaments in general. Then moving on to the Spring Major, we'll have almost the full crew at the major. AJ, Ace, myself, and Sasuke, Shane, I believe, will be there as well, getting as much content as possible. And we will also be putting out an episode every night, recapping that day's matches and our thoughts, just like we did for the Winter Major. So that'll be an episode Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So a lot to look forward to, and I can't wait for the major.
Yeah, it's gonna be super fun. All right, so let's talk about this last NA Spring Invitational. So, going over upper bracket round 1. FaZe beat G League 3-1. Furia beat NRG 3-1. G2 beat M80 3-1. Koi beats Version 1 3-2. Complexity sweeps Team Axel. Optic beats Shopify 3-1. Gen G beat Sup 3-2, and Space Station sweeps Dignitas. Lower bracket round 1, then we have G League losing to NRG 2-3. Version 1 sweeps M80. Shopify beats Team Axel 3-2, and Dignitas beat Sup 3-2.
Moving in.
Any surprises for you in this first round?
I mean, Dignitas taking a series, that's been kind of a surprise this split.
I'll count it.
I mean, I feel like I have to say Version 1 dropping down to lowers from Koi. That one was a big surprise for me.
Yeah. Koi's kind of wild, though.
Yeah, I mean, they're able to perform against some of the upper teams in NA very, very well, similar to how Hogan Mode has been doing it in EU. So
yeah, exactly.
But other than that, yeah. I mean, like,
surprising nonetheless.
Yeah. And then, like, M80, NRG, G League, Shopify all taking games off of, Furia, FaZe, Optic, and G2. Not necessarily surprising, but
good to see.
Something to note.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on to the upper bracket quarterfinals, we have Furia beating FaZe Clan 3-1. We have G2 taking down Koi 3-2. We have Optic taking down Complexity 3-2. We have Space Station taking out Gen G 3-1. And then in lowers, we have Gen G knocking NRG out 3-0. We have Complexity knocking out Version 1 3-1. we have Shopify sweeping Koi out of the event, and we have FaZe Clan beating Dignitas 3-1. Anything you're thinking about this one?
Feels bad.
Yeah, it certainly does.
I mean, Optic beating Complexity, obviously. Like, that felt like it shouldn't have happened, but other than that, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Furia FaZe.
I mean, that was a little bit surprising to me,
FaZe
but
3-1.
it does seem like they've been on like an upward trajectory. It seems like they've kind of figured some stuff
Yeah.
out this split. But
Yeah. It's good to see. I like Furia.
yeah. And then moving on to lower bracket round 3, we have Gen G taking out Complexity 3-1, and we have FaZe Clan taking out Shopify 3-1. So kind of, I mean, maybe the Gen G Complexity series is a little bit unexpected, but certainly FaZe Clan getting a win there is expected, and I think Gen G would expect themselves to win that series, but
Definitely.
yeah.
All right, upper bracket semifinals. We got Furia beating G2 4-2, and Space Station sweeping Optic. Am I saying that right?
You are.
Okay. Space Station sweeps Optic. That's a surprise to me.
Yeah, I mean,
How do you feel about that?
it's been a minute since this invitational happened, so I'm sorry about that, but Space Station, in my eyes, has been one of the most consistent teams in the world. I'm gonna discount Vitality because they've just won everything, but I mean, Space Station has been top 4, top 3, and now top 2 in the 3 regional events this year. This is split.
That's fair, I guess. Huh. All right, and I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on that. Lower bracket quarterfinals then. We got G2 beating Gen G 4-2, and Optic beating FaZe 4-3.
So one thing I do have to point out here is because Gen G and FaZe are knocked out in the same round of the tournament, this sets the stage for a tiebreaker for a major spot, which we will talk about in a little bit.
Oh, man. That was wild. All right, lower bracket semifinal. We got Optic beating G2 4-2.
Yeah, that win from Optic officially knocked G2 out of major contention. Moving into upper bracket finals, we have Furia taking down Space Station 4-3. And in the lower bracket finals, we have Space Station again beating Optic, but this time 4-3. Before moving into the grand finals, which Furia takes down Space Station 4-2. That's Furia's first regional win as an NA team. And again, like I talked about a little bit earlier, another consistent and great performance from Space Station.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. They are consistent, if nothing else.
Yeah, they've certainly been on the march this split.
All right, so K-Cube, you want to take the tiebreaker situation here?
I would love to.
All right.
So with, as I said, with Gen G and FaZe both going out of the tournament at the same spot, they will be tied on points, tied for 5th. And with NA only getting 5 teams in the major, that set up a tiebreaker situation. It was an extra series that was played after this regional to determine just whether FaZe or Gen G would make the major. And Gen G is able to take down FaZe 4-2 to advance to the spring major. So with Gen G advancing to the major, we can now move on to our biggest winners and losers of this regional. Starting off with the winners here. First off, I got Space Station. Another improvement in results as they go from 4th to 3rd to 2nd in this split. And they are your most consistent NA team of this split, and they solidify their number 1 seed in NA and their major spot for Boston. Secondly, I got Furia. It seems like they finally started to put things together as they win their first regional in NA. Coming from the upper brackets, they looked very good, and good for them as they look to take this momentum into the spring major. Third, I have Optic. They're able to show up and take down Complexity, FaZe, G2 in their march to the lower bracket finals, only taken out by Space Station, both of their losses coming to Space Station in this event. And last but certainly not least, I have Gen G. They did just enough to make the tiebreaker, and they're able to beat FaZe to punch their ticket to Boston.
And Optic did just enough for Gen G too.
Yes, they did. They certainly did.
That's so wild.
What did I miss, or what was I right about on that?
I'll tell you who was wrong. Ace. Thinking SSG wasn't gonna do good.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I expected them to be number 1 seed in NA, but I certainly didn't see them, finishing 8 to 16th like I think a lot of people did. I mean, Hoxer's a good player. I think that he really kind of has unlocked LJ, and they've like we've talked about it a little bit before. I think that they don't necessarily have the star power or the pop off potential like someone like a V1 does, or like a FaZe Clan, but they do have a high floor, right? So like their bad results aren't going to be devastating like we've seen from FaZe and unfortunately from V1 in this regional.
Yeah, it's insane how consistent they are. Apart from that, though, like I think you hit every solid point there. Like, there's no. I mean, maybe you could say Optic.
Yeah, I mean,
just kidding, you did.
Yeah, no, because they beat Complexity, they beat beat G2, they beat FaZe, right? And the kind of FaZe kind of being still maybe fourth clan now, especially not making the major, but like they're still kind of the gatekeepers, right? They they made grand finals in the spring. They're still very much in world's contention, although their world spot, I think that they've kind of qualified into the wild card now, but we'll have to wait and see what they do with they're off basically until August, I believe. So I'll be interested to see what they do from now until then to try and right the ship a little bit.
Yeah. So with the winners out of the way, let's talk about the losers. Let's talk about the biggest loser.
Yeah.
Version 1. Ouch.
Yeah, an early loss in lower bracket round 2 ends their season, actually, as I don't think that they, without making this major, they don't have a chance to make Worlds, which is unfortunate.
They do still have a chance.
Yeah, they do. But I think that...
Not a good one.
Yeah, no, they need a lot of help. But it's unfortunate that, the EU crowd will be most likely robbed of seeing a Daniel Beast Mode team at LAN, and so I think they will have to wait until next season for that to happen, but I will be interested to see what they do in the meantime, if there's any roster changes, if Com is retained on the team, or if they look to bring in a third. So I'll be very interested to see what they do.
Any roster move predictions from you?
I'd be very interested to see if they do. If they do end up making a roster move, I think it's going to need to be someone maybe not necessarily like similar to Com's play style, but someone who's going to be a little bit more defensive, who's going to be, fine with being like in that supporting role, similar to how, Hoxter's kind of come into SSG. So, but, I think that they've performed, they won a regional. And so I think that it's been, maybe the consistency hasn't quite been there yet for version 1, as they have 2 early exits and 1 win. So I could see them realistically sticking with the same group.
That's what I was gonna say too. I think they stick with Com.
Yeah, I mean he's just kind of
I think they stick with their current roster. I suppose Com isn't necessarily the first to drop if something happens, but he's the first to drop if something happens.
Yeah, I mean he's kind of been the face of the organization, like the org, for a while, and the V1 fans love him, and everyone else loves to hate him. So certainly a polarizing player, and I think that they would do well to keep him on the team and run it back for one more split.
100%. I agree. I guess we'll just have to find out if they agree.
Yeah.
All right. Another loser, NRG. They are out early again.
Yeah,
Who
that
did they
end,
lose to first? Furia. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, but yeah, it ends their season. They're not going to Boston, right?
no, they're not going to Boston and they're not going to Worlds. They're done for the
Yeah,
year.
that's what I thought.
I mean,
Rough.
you got to think a roster move's coming, right?
Yeah, but we thought that last time too.
We did. You're right. I can't see a world where something doesn't change or NRG is kind of like as an organization is just kind of gonna fade into nothingness, right? Like this can't be profitable for the org.
Wait, no, I mean Rocket League in general isn't profitable, but
I mean that's fair.
but yeah, this is even less profitable. But
And
yeah, like it feels like they're just gonna fall into being a bubble team.
yeah, and I mean, Squishy had posted some cryptic tweets, thanking the fans and talking about his career a little bit. So is it potentially possible that he calls it quits? Maybe.
God, he's finally realizing he's washed.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was the best player. He's been the best player for them this split. Personally, I think he's had
Yeah.
a great split. So I'll be interested to see if he's done with NRG, done with Rocket League in general, or what. But I think something needs to give.
I agree. Yep. Something's got to change besides the coach.
Yeah.
And we'll see if something happens with it. But I'm still gonna predict that there's no changes there. So
I want to say that there will be, but they've been pretty loyal to their players in the past. So I definitely could see them not making a move, but I feel like with as competitive as Justin and Garrett are, that that there isn't some kind of move, either one of them moving out, like moving on to try and compete, or trying to make the roster work with what they got. So I guess we'll have to see.
yeah, that's fair. All right, and FaZe loses in the tiebreaker to Gen G because they got booted out by Optic, and they are not going to Boston.
Fourth clan.
This to me is shocking.
Actually, I guess technically they'd be sixth clan right now.
It feels bad.
It does. But I mean, it's crazy to me because last split they looked incredible.
Yeah, they got second at the major, right?
Yeah,
Wait,
I mean,
did they win?
they won two of the three.
Oh no, it was Carmi. Duh.
They won two of the three events. They got second place at the major. They looked fantastic.
Yeah.
And then they show up in spring, and they go out is like first round in spring. They make the Spring Cup. I believe they made grand finals against V1 and lost 4-1, and then they're out in lower bracket quarters in this event, and they just didn't do enough, right? They put themselves in they had an opportunity to squeak into the major on a tiebreaker, and they couldn't get it done against Gen G. Gen G's able to fight through the timeout buff, and they beat FaZe in game 6 to end the series, but FaZe just did not do enough.
That, I mean, I don't even know what to say. That is absolutely shocking to me. They looked so good last split. Now they don't even go to the major.
Yeah, I mean it's weird to say, but like we'll look ahead of here a little bit, and the 5 teams from NA that are headed to Boston, in order of points, are Space Station, Furia, Optic, Complexity, and Gen G via tiebreaker. And if you notice the teams that are missing, FaZe, V1, G2, it's crazy to think that these massive titans of the esport are not going to be represented in Boston.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it's crazy to think, but that's they're just not the best. They shouldn't be representing NA.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I was kind of under the impression that V1 would be NA's best hope at competing with EU in this event, but they don't make it. I mean, FaZe is another one that's, been able to beat some EU teams. They're gone. G2's offense has sometimes given people troubles, but they're not there. So, you really come to think about, well, what can Furia do? We've seen them perform well at Worlds last year. Yan is a LAN monster. We've seen Space Station perform at LAN. Arsenal is always down to get hype. He's a great LAN player. But will their kind of slow, methodical, consistent play style yield results? I don't know. I mean, EU has just looked so dominant the last couple of events, and I mean, Vitality's looking unstoppable right now. So I really don't know who has a chance at slowing that roll down.
Yeah, it feels like it's just gonna be an EU dominated tournament.
I mean, I think so too. I mean, I'll save this conversation a little bit for our episode next week on our major primer, but I'll leave an open-ended question here for people to start thinking about in the meantime. At what point in the rankings of EU do you think the NA is better? Right? Like how far down into the EU rankings do you have to go before an NA team slots in? So I'll leave that question.
I know my answer, but yeah, I'll hold out for next week.
Yeah, I know my answer too. Like where you could,
right.
I'd hear a conversation for it. So I will leave that open, and feel free to tweet at us with your answer, or put it in our Discord, stuff like that. But we will gladly hear what you have to say, and we will talk about it next week when that comes.
And let us know if you're going to Boston.
Yeah, for sure. We also, last but certainly not least, in terms of Boston, we have one ticket to the event all 3 days that we will be giving away to anybody who is going to the event. It does not include lodging or hotel or food or travel or anything like that, but it is a ticket to the event that we will have and will be gladly giving away. So if you want to hit us up on Twitter, I will be happy to do so. I will be putting out a tweet for anyone interested in trying to get this ticket. So hopefully we will see you there, and hopefully you win. But so final thoughts for this event, NA as a for the spring split. What if you had to summarize this split? How would you do so?
Man, that's a rough question. I don't even know. Chaos?
Yeah, I mean that's a good one. The first word that kind of comes to mind for me is unsatisfying.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Because
that's a real good one.
V1 make their roster change. They get Laniel. The momentum is all on their side, and they go out round 2 in the first major. Like, okay, well, it's a new roster, like it's fine, and then they win. Regional 2, and you're like, oh man, this is it. This is where their march starts, and they go out losers bracket round 2 again.
So much for that.
Yep. Like there's NA's shot at competing with the EU. Okay, what about FaZe Clan? Right, they made grand finals. Nope, they go out in tiebreaker in regional 3. Okay, well Gen G they've been on top before. They've won a major. They barely squeak in and they win a tiebreaker. Well, they haven't been playing that well, but they made it. So you never know. And it's like, okay, well, what about Optic? Has been dubbed by Beast Mode and some others like Choke Dick Gaming. We'll get to see a LAN bear, right? Magic Bear at LAN. CJ's been hoping for this for a long time. Can they perform against EU teams? They've had a really good split. Is Furia finally, figured all their stuff out with Yan and Lost and Kaio? There's so many unanswered questions in NA, and I would have very much liked to have seen a team take a stranglehold over the region to kind of announce themselves as a competitor to EU, but instead your number 1 seed in NA is the most consistent team in NA, and it's Space Station. But they also didn't win a regional.
It's wild.
Yeah, so certainly a lot of storylines to pay attention to, and a lot of cheering for NA teams where that's going to happen pretty early on in the tournament. As I think that most everyone is kind of predicting a EU heavy top 4, top 8 finals situation we got going. So we can only wait and see. And like I said, our major primer will be next week. We'll answer that question. We'll make our predictions, and we'll just talk generally about the split and our plans for Boston.
I've been saying this every single time. Every single one of us needs to make a full bracket prediction and post it out for the world to see how wrong we are after the tournament.
Okay, I will do that. I'll put the.
We can always
link.
do it like next week during the episode too, when we're recording or something, or like before or after or something.
Yeah, because we could talk about it in the episode. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
But without further ado, this has been a shorter episode, but it's a little bit in the past here, as this event took place 2 weeks ago. So again, thank you for bearing with us. That's the last vacation that I got until heading to Boston. So our episode should go back to our regularly scheduled time slots. But we'd like to thank you so much for listening. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, join our Discord, rate us wherever you listen to podcasts, as it really helps us out. All of those links and more can be found on our website at www.boostoverball.com. And from everyone's favorite aggressively average Rocket League players, please remember to always choose Boost over Ball.
See you in Boston.
Thank you for listening to the Boost Over Ball podcast. Make sure to check out our website, www.boostoverball.com, and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts.